No live organism can continue for long to exist sanely under conditions of absolute reality. Even larks and katydids are supposed by some to dream. Hill House, not sane, stood by itself against its hills, holding darkness within. It had stood so for 80 years, and might stand for 80 more. Within, walls continued upright. Bricks met neatly, floors were firm, and doors were sensibly shut. Silence lay steadily against the wood and stone of Hill House, and whatever walked there walked alone. Shirley Jackson, The Haunting of Hill House. Now that's a good way to start a book. Yes, welcome to stately Vaughan Manor, and welcome to the very first Sunday Penguin, where every Sunday I go to my gigantic big tower of Penguin classics, take one down, and talk about it. This is, of course, in the tradition of Steve Donahue's Daily Penguin, which he no longer does. He sadly has ceased doing it and is now doing his Library Tour of Doom, which is also awesome. But I felt the Penguins must continue to march, and so every Sunday I will be doing this Sunday Penguin, and Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House is the very first one. So lucky you. Yeah, this is a pretty good book. I was kind of inspired to pick this because I was watching Attic Diaries, a fantastic YouTube channel. You should all be watching Attic Diaries. And anyway, the young lady who does Attic Diaries had recently read this, and she was talking about how she was, she recognized that it was a good book, but she was kind of disappointed in it. She didn't feel it was that scary, and didn't really deliver what she expected it to deliver. And I remembered that the first time that I read this, I kind of felt the same way, and I'm sure that a lot of people who read this now kind of feel that way. They're like, wow, was that really that scary? And part of that might be because people that are picking this up now might be picking it up because they saw the TV show, which is completely different. It's like a whole different thing. It's fantastic. Don't get me wrong. That TV show is really good. And Bly Manor is good too. I'm still emotionally traumatized from Bly Manor, actually. But great shows. But this is not that. And so don't go into this book thinking you're going to get a book version of the TV show, because this is not it. In this book has the classic kind of haunted house setup, which she kind of made a classic, where we have Dr. Montague, the occult scholar, and he's there with to study psychic phenomena and the notoriously haunted Hill House. And he's brought along Theodora, his lovely assistant, and I think Luke's the guy's name, is the owner of the place, and he's there too. But most importantly, Eleanor is there. And the thing about this book, I remember being disappointed in this book because I didn't think it was that scary when I first read it. And that was, God, I was 25 maybe, so it was like 1,000 years ago. And I had made the mistake of reading Hell House by Richard Matheson first. And Hell House is like his version of this, only dialed up to 11. Hell House delivers, man. If you're looking for the scary stuff, you will not be disappointed in Hell House. But I walked into this thinking it'd be kind of like that, and it is nothing like that. It has a spooky haunted house in it. There are scary things that happen. And you've got the occult investigator guy, Dr. Montague, who's kind of this know-it-all guy. And yeah, I was expecting more of what I got in the other books and from a gazillion horror movies I had seen, but this is a different thing, and it's about something different. There are a few characters in this book, but it's only really about two. It's a character study, basically, and it's about two characters. The first character is Eleanor. It's really focuses on Eleanor, who is this kind of loner young lady. I don't think she has many friends. She lives with her sister, who's really domineering and kind of a jerk, and she's really not very independent. She really doesn't have much of a life of her own, but you could tell that she wants one. But she's not really assertive enough to strike out on her own. She just doesn't have whatever it takes for a serious introvert like her to break out and kind of get her own life. And so it's a character study about her. The whole thing is pretty much focused on her and the other character, and the other character is Hill House itself. And the relationship that develops, and there is a relationship that develops between Eleanor and Hill House, and the effect that that relationship has on Eleanor, because she changes during the course of this book, and that is what this book is about. You know, it has the spooky things that happen, it has the scary things that happen. They're not scary compared to what we now are used to, because you know, this was written in '59, I think. So it was a while ago. We've had about a gazillion haunted house books and movies since then that have really racked things up. So it might be a little unfair to compare this to those when, first of all, it's a completely different thing, really. And it's not going to have that kind of impact that those later haunted house, hard-hitting horror stuff has. Shirley Jackson was often a soft-spoken writer. You know, her style was not heavy and in your face. Her style was subtle, but it could hit you hard. Anyone who's read The Lottery knows that, you know. And she's got a lot of other short stories that'll just, they hit you once you get to the part where it hits you. And this book kind of does that. It kind of does that at the end. You pretty much have to get to the end before it really gets you. Now, the first time I read this, like I said, I was young. I was expecting something different. I was looking for something different. And I didn't catch on to what the book was about. I read the whole book. I didn't know what the book was about, you know, which happens sometimes, especially with a writer who can be subtle. So I didn't get that the book was about the relationship between the house and Eleanor, and how Eleanor changed because of her relationship to Hill House, and how she was kind of being affected so gradually by being in the house. Yeah, so I didn't get it. Didn't get it the first time. When I read it again, which was only a few years ago, you know, as an old man. Now, as an old man, I kind of was like, you know, I ought to pick this book back up. And so I picked up this Penguin classic and read it again. And I was pretty impressed by it because, you know, I knew I wasn't going to get scared. I knew I wasn't walking into like a frightening, terrifying horror story, which it's not. It's got a few unsettling moments, but, you know, there's no jump scares, guys. That's not going to happen. So if you've just watched the TV show, no, man, it's different. Great as the TV show was, this is an entirely different thing, which is fine. This is its own thing, and it's very good at what it does once you kind of just take a step back and don't expect it to be what you are walking in expecting it to be, which is a terrifying haunted house story. It is a haunted house story, of course, but it is about something different. And when you just kind of kick back, wipe away as many expectations as you can, and just read it as, like I said, a character study of Eleanor, and just try to really put yourself in her position. And some of the other characters, except for the pompous Dr. Montague, who's actually kind of a nice guy, but he's just so full of himself. And he's always like going on. And if you look through this book, you'll find like big blocks of text. That's Dr. Montague talking. You know, he just goes on, this guy. Thinks he knows it all. So, except for him, and Theodora, kind of. The other characters can be kind of thin. You know, you don't get much from them. Which makes sense. Because, you know, you're not seeing anything from their perspective. It's not about them. It's about two characters. Hill House and Eleanor. And so from that position, this works quite well. And the end of this book, the first time I read it, was just like, what the hell what's even happened? I don't even know what happened at the end of this book. Ah! But the second time I read it, it was a bit emotionally affecting once I knew what was going on. And because I just read it from Eleanor's perspective. And she's kind of a prickly character. She's not incredibly likable. But if you're even a slightly bit of an introvert, and if you've ever had trouble kind of dealing with the world, you know, like you're just not made for this world, and so it can be kind of difficult to maneuver. You can kind of relate to her, and through the course of this book, if you kind of just hang out with her and she's your character, by the end of it, it can be emotionally affecting what happens. And of course, I'm not going to tell you what happens because I never spoil books. At least I try not to. But I do highly recommend this book. And look at that great house on the cover. Penguin did a good job with this one. That's cool. But yeah, I do recommend this one. Just like I said, go in not expecting anything like the TV show. Don't go expecting a terrifying haunted house story, because you're not going to get it. You do get a haunted house story. It's just a different kind of thing. And for what it is, I think it works quite well. You don't have to lower your expectations, because this is not a bad book at all. It's a good book. Shirley Jackson was a really, really good writer. It's just a different thing. Go in expecting a different thing than what you might expect. And I think you just might be impressed with this one. It's worth reading. And it has earned its reputation as a classic. Not just a horror classic, but a classic of literature. Hey, it's in Penguin. Of course it's a classic. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed me talking about this book. Catch me again next Sunday for another Sunday Penguin. And of course, I'll probably have something up tomorrow that's entirely different. I think I've got to continue with my bookshelf tour. I gotta do this shelf here. All right, so I'll catch you then here at Stately Vaughan Manor. Bye, guys.